Hi, welcome to part 4 of that pocket book. We're making this delicious book with all these pockets in it. This time we're making this pocket here. I've got one up on the wall here that I've made. So it's got a nice flapper over, it's got a hook and loop type fastening, it's got a little plate in the sides so that you could fit lots of exciting things inside that pocket. So I'll just go through with you how I've gone about making that. There's a pattern available for this through the website GourmetQuilter.com. So we're on to page number 4 this time, and if you're already receiving the pattern, you'll have all this information that tells you how to cut, how to sew, how to do everything really. I'm just here to show you. So it's told us that we've got to cut certain sizes obviously for the pocket, certain pieces for the flap, and then we need our background piece as well. And this time we also need a stiff piece, which I've already just placed behind my square there. So I've gone ahead with the first bit of instructions for making the pocket. We have to fold it over and we have to leave a gap ready for turning out. So we're folding it over so that the sizes is how we want it to be. We're going to trim off these little corners so that we don't have bulk in any corners. I've already done the stitching just 1/4 of an inch in from the edge. I've left a gap here for turning, but these corners are just unnecessary. So I'm just going to turn that out the right side now, and then we want to just poke those corners out as smartly as we can. You may have a little turning tool, you might have a pencil or something, nothing too sharp to push corners out, because you might poke a hole in it and we don't want any extra holes. Pocket holes, but not extra holes. So turning and then pressing. Now where the opening is, we're not going to bother to sew that over at the moment because we will be covering that later. But when you're pressing it, you just want to press it in as if it's sewn. So the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, I'm just finger pressing at the moment, and I'll take it to the iron so that it just leaves you a nice smooth line going past there. So I'm just going to press these seams out before I press the folded edge so that everything is sitting right, and then the fold will just naturally fall into the right place. So you just want that to look like a straight line, so those open bits are still tucked in as if they were sewn. And this third edge with their seam on it. And then so everything now should just be fine to just press that fold. So most of the pockets are going to be double that we're doing because I just feel it gives them a little bit more oomph or something. And then we just need to stitch across where the fold is. We want to do 2 rows of top stitching like we've done on some of the other pockets, one close to the fold and then one about 1/4 of an inch away. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you the next stage. So I've gone ahead, I've done my 2 rows of top stitching along that folded edge of my pocket piece. And now we just need to measure because we've got to make the little pleat. So I'm just going to lay that on my board. I'm going to use my ruler to help me and some pins. So what we need to do is we need like a 6-inch space in between. So I'm just going to measure. I can find the middle, and I can come out 3 inches here, and I can come out 3 inches from the middle on this side as well, when I remember where the middle is. It would help if I had the ruler in the right place, wouldn't it? So we're after a 6-inch space in the middle. The pattern tells you how to do the measurements and things. So then once we've got those markings, we're going to fold that over at that point and press that line. You can take the pin out, so we're going to have it pressed. And then we can do the, whoops, took the pin out a bit early. Do the same thing here, making sure that things are sitting nice and straight everywhere. And so what we now want to do is stitch down both of those folded lines with that pushed back like that. Maybe 1/8 of an inch, maybe slightly less, just near the fold. We want to stitch that little pleated fold in there. So I'll just go to the machine and get those done and show you the next stage. So I've stitched my little pleats in there, which is looking pretty good. Now we're going to put a little piece of the fastener on. So we've got a hook and loop. I'm suggesting that we put the hooky one on this one here. So we want to center it, and we want to come down about 1/2 inch from that top edge, and we want it in the middle as well. So that's pretty good to put it there like that. I'm not sure about pinning it because it might move when I'm pinning it, so I'm just going to pick it up carefully, take it to the machine and stitch that in place through the whole pocket there. So this is a little bit, if you're not familiar with sewing these sorts of things, usually things like this sew absolutely fine, it's just slightly different to handle. So I'm just on a regular stitch, I haven't changed anything, and I'm just stitching around the outside edge of that piece. And I'm just going to come over here, right over those hooky bits. And I'm just going to go right just over that corner bit, back stitch it just to hold it. So that's got our fastener already in place, so that's looking pretty good so far. Now we just have to get the pocket itself ready to do to put onto the background, and then we'll make the flap as a separate little exercise. So we've got everything done. We've got our pocket little pleats here, but what we want to do now, so we've got that whole piece folded back, we want to fold it so that this piece that we've stitched now lines up with that edge. So we've got that extra little fold in it there. So I'm just going to press that, make sure that it's sitting all the way down level at the edge there, and do the other side as well. Make sure that your ends are sitting nicely, because we'll see those ends if they're not. And then we want to position that onto our back page. So I've already got the stiff stuff because mine's fusible. I fused it, otherwise just have them laying together or clipped together so that they don't move. And so make sure that your little pleats stay folded like that, and we're going to position that onto here. So then we want to make sure that we've got everything sitting right. So you want to come up, all the measurements, as I said, are in here. So you want to come up from the bottom the correct amount when I get there, and you want it sitting nice and straight, and you want it sitting in the middle as well. So many things to think of, aren't there? It may be a good idea to find the center, which you can do with a pin in the middle there. Have your page sitting nice and straight. Pop this so that it's sitting in the middle, and so you want to keep those little pleats tucked in so that those edges are level there, and that's all looking pretty good. Sitting nice and straight. And then you may want to pin to that. I'm not sure, it's not that easy to pin to, but it is absolutely possible. But you don't want to pin on the sides, because what we now need to do is open that, so we want that to stay right. So you may want to put a pin just up in the top there to hold it, and you can pin into the stiff stuff. And then we're going to fold that back, and we want to stitch that down. Again, that sort of same distance as we've done on that little plate here, maybe that slightly under 1/8 of an inch, all the way from the top down to the bottom on both sides. And then we can take, we can go across the bottom as well to close off the pocket. So I'll do the sides and then show you the next little bit. So I'm just stitching that second side. I've done one side, I've just got this plate folded out of the way there, and I'm just stitching up this side, regular straight stitch. So that's all looking pretty good. And now all we need to do for the actual pocket part is stitch across the bottom. So just make sure that's all sitting nicely, and we can just stitch all the way again with that same sort of distance, about that 1/8 of an inch or less, close to that edge all the way across from side to side, and that will then give us a nice little pocket with lots of room to move in it. So when we've sewn that line across there, we've actually enclosed the gap that we'd left when we turned the pocket out the right way. So I think that's all looking pretty good. I've just got a couple of threads to trim off here. And my pocket is quite happy. I hope yours is happy too. So now we just need to make the little flap to close it over. So in the pattern this time, you will have had a shape for the pattern, for the pocket flap. So I've already gone ahead, I've cut mine out, and I've already done the stitching. We've got to stitch 3 sides, so on the angled side and the 2 short sides, leaving one long side, the straight side, open. And the same thing, we just want to clip those corners. Even these ones that are only sort of half corners, it's still worth just getting some of the bulk out of the way so that when we turn it out we get nice corners without a whole lot of bulk of fabric in them. So this is a little bit different to quilting. This is similar but different. So I'm going to press that out now. It's all looking pretty good. Press the seam. And now we just want to do a little bit of a top stitch on that. Again, this sort of an 1/8 of an inch away works quite well, but we probably only need to do it once on the flap, but you can do it twice if you want to. I'm just going to do it once, and then we'll need to come and put the other half of our fastening on there as well. So again, the pattern tells you how far in to put it. It's about 1/4 of an inch up, I think, from that edge. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll do my top stitching line, and then I'm going to put that on, and then I'll show you how to put the flap on when that's all done. So I've gone ahead and made my little flap. I've done my stitching line around, and I've put my piece of the fluffy hook and loop, or the loop, whichever bit you want to call it. And now we just need to put it on to our pocket page. So what I found works really well is to line it up obviously with the pocket, because it should be about the same size as the pocket, and we want to line this edge here up with the edge of our page, so that should sit pretty closely there. It should be pretty even in between here, and then we just want to stitch that in place. So maybe a couple of pins into the stiff stuff will help hold that while you do that. And you just want to stitch, I'm going to suggest a scant 1/4 inch seam to hold this down. And then after that we can come back and I'll show you how to put the flap in place. It should all fit, everything should fit. So I'm just going to do my scant 1/4 inch now. So we're nearly done. We've got our pocket flap in place. When we fold that over, that should line up quite nicely with the fastening underneath. And so what we're wanting to do now, because we've done just a scant 1/4 inch there, we want to fold that over. You may want to press it so it's nice and firm there, and then you just want to stitch 1/4 of an inch away so that that encloses all the raw edges and leaves you a nice flap that will open up. So I am going to give it a quick press. You know me, I just like to iron everything. And then I'm just going to stitch that 1/4 of an inch away, which should cover all those raw edges inside there, and then we'll be done. So I can go ahead and do that now and show it to you. Back stitch at the end. And trainy little threads, and here we have our pocket, which is all working quite nicely. So we've got that pocket, we've got the little pleat in the sides. What a great way to make a little pocket that'll hold something a little bit bulkier than just a flat pocket. So I hope you've enjoyed making page 4 for your pocket book. It looks a whole lot like the one I've got up here, just different colours. So that was it. That can now be joined to page 3, and we'll see you again with page 5.